Hello and welcome to the Eardley Bird Business Podcast. On today's episode, we have Izzi Rosenberg, where we discuss his business ProsperFi and how that's been going. We discuss the fact that his dad didn't let him work for him when he was younger. And also we discuss the future of accounting, how things are going to innovate, what we're going to be doing with things like AI. So I hope you enjoy and thanks for listening. Hi, Izzy. So basically, today we have Izzy. So I'm just going to dive straight in and we'll learn a little bit more about you and your journey. So let's start there. How have you got to here? What have you done up until now?
Yeah, so I started out, actually, I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be somebody who makes changes out there in the world, invents new things. And my mum taught me out of it. My dad's an accountant, so maybe she wanted me to be the succession. My dad refused to give me a training contract. He made me go work somewhere else. So I went to work for another firm and worked at various firms throughout my career in the early days. And then a bit later on, my dad asked me if I'd come and join him to help him sort out an exit plan. And my first response to him was absolutely no way. I was quite enjoying the social aspect of working with other people and everything. Had no intention of moving out. But what I found is that the bigger firms were slow to adopt tech. And that for me to be able to go at the pace that I wanted to with tech adoption, the only way to do it would be to do it in an environment where I was given a free rein. So about 6 years ago, I joined forces with my dad. I worked together with him up until the end of 2024. But he's now retired, and I set up my own firm, ProsperFi, on the back of that. And, that I'm now in my own space where I can do absolutely everything I want in terms of tech adoption. One of the preconditions I did put with my dad when I joined forces with him was I said to him that he has to give me a free rein on the tech adoption, which has really, really helped in that aspect in me going at my own pace on the tech.
Perfect. And I find it really interesting that your dad refused you the training sort of contracts and going straight into working with him. So where did you go before? Like, where did you go to learn your craft a bit more? And it's really interesting that he said no. And I think it's actually quite a good route, actually, because you go out, you learn a lot more, and you almost bring the additional things you've learned into the business. So I guess anyone that is listening to this that owns a firm that's thinking about their children coming to work for them, that's definitely an interesting route.
Yeah, 100%. So everything what you've said exactly spot on. The reason why my dad rejected me with the training contract was because for those reasons that you mentioned, he wanted me to go out and get my own experience. He was very conscious and knew that he was backdated. He wasn't up to date with things, and he wanted me to learn the modern practices at that time.
Yeah. So
I went to, it was post 2008 recession. It was very, very difficult to find a job. The big four just weren't taking anyone on new, and that trickled its way down because obviously the job market, there was not many jobs going at all. So I found a job with a small local firm, and I was with them for a few years, and that kick-started. I worked right at the bottom. I remember the early days. My role right at the beginning was literally just typing up bank statements. And that's where it ties in with the tech adoption, that my first employer once said to me that in the future, the banks will send the information straight to the bookkeeping system. And I remember there as an office junior, I was quite worried, thinking my job's on the line because my job right now is to type up bank statements. So if I don't have a role typing up bank statements, what am I going to do then? And, fast forward over a decade, the market's as strong as it ever has been for candidates. So I don't think there's ever any concern about robots taking us over.
Yeah.
So after working there, I moved on to a bigger firm. So it was a mid-tier firm. I took the decision to stick with sort of more own and managed businesses because it still was at the back of my mind at some point I may join forces with my dad. And therefore, if I went to say the likes of a big four, the work experience I'd get there wouldn't be relevant.
Yeah.
So I went to a very well-established firm. I'd been going over 100 years, still going on now. So I'm will be going for the next 100 years, I'm sure. And absolutely loved it there. Got a lot of experience there. And it was around 2017 when people started adopting Zero, and I really liked it. Platform, I felt that was a good platform for the future. And that's what led me to eventually join forces with my dad in 2018, 2019, because I felt that would be the thing that could, that take us into the digital age.
So you joined forces with your dad. Obviously, he's now retired. How is the business going now? How's the growth been for, let's say, the last year?
So the last year, it's been interesting. I've been paving the way because obviously that the retirement's been sort of in the making, as it were. We knew at some point he's going to retire. So I've been focusing more on what work I want to do, and gearing myself up that when I set up ProsperFi, it would have that work available. And so we've moved away from the model of the traditional accountant doing year-end only. We look at offering more the full outsourced finance function offering. We do have clients where we do the year-end only, but that's more when they're in that early stage of the business and there'll be a growth, and eventually we'll get them to the next level in their business where we'll be doing the full finance offering. So it's one of the things that I found working in practice for all these years is that there's a lot of wasted time, and workflows get messed about because we're waiting for clients to bring in the records and waiting on client queries, etc. So if we could just control that part of the process, and we can be in control of the records, then that would cut out all that time lag. So in fact, at a recent event in the summer, I spoke to a practice owner who told me that he found that 30% of his staff time was used on chasing for records. So he went and hired an admin person to do the chasing instead. But it just got me thinking as well, if he's hiring an admin person, that means he's paying a wage just to cover the time chasing people, which is quite expensive. So again, it's also, as a profession, we get drawn into being more input focused. So we think about what's needed to complete a set of accounts, what's needed to do our job, and we just take it for granted that part of it is chasing the client, part of it is getting it. But what we need to do really is be more output focused and think, right, what is it the client wants? To be honest, doing the year-end accounts, the tax returns, you're not doing it for the client, you're doing it for the government, because if the government legislation of having company accounts, having tax returns wasn't in place, these clients wouldn't be doing it. What you want to do is you want to work for them. So what do they need? They need visibility of their finances. They need to be able to plan, know where things are up to, have an accountant they can talk to, somebody they've got a relationship with, somebody who understands them, who knows what keeps them up at night, what gets them moving, what gets their business to the next level. That's what they need. And when you then go onto the output focus, you gravitate and direct what you do during your day towards achieving that output.
So would you describe your firm then as quite different to the standard sort of accountancy practice then? It sounds like you're edging more towards that full finance function rather than doing the odd bit of, end of years or bookkeeping or whatnot. Would you say that's right or
Yeah, no, definitely. That's pretty much what it is. It's like one of my clients once described it recently, that said, you're not an accountant, you're not a bookkeeper. You basically encompass both. You're in between, as it were.
Yeah.
And my model is, I think a lot of times as accountants, we get too drawn into the fact of thinking we have to know everything. And it's, realistically speaking, it's impossible for us to know everything. We're never going to know everything. What we need to do is align ourselves with industry experts and have the people around us that when we have a particular specialist query, we know who we can turn to. That's what we need to do. And know our limitations, know when something's above us, so that we don't get ourselves in a pickle trying to do something that we can't do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think every industry is a little bit falls short with that, trying to be someone who they're not or trying to pretend they're an expert in something that they're not. So I think that's very good advice. So how long, obviously your father's retired, how long's that been? How long have you been taking the helm there?
So my dad retired just now in the autumn.
Oh, okay.
So ProsperFi set up again around that same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but obviously I've been working with my dad for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sort of been he's held the fort, and he's been the man at the top all this time.
Yeah.
But obviously, as succession goes, there's always going to be a time when that needs to change hands.
Yeah.
Here we are.
So it's been almost like a foundational year for you then in terms of the setting up. I presume ProsperFi is it a new brand name and it's a different direction, or?
Yeah, it's completely new. So the challenge with established businesses is that they tend to carry a lot of baggage. So there's concepts of this is the way we've done it since 1980, whatever it might have been, and this is the way we're going to do it going forward because that's the way we've done it. But that's where you kind of get falling into that input mindset, and what you need to do is really focus on the output. And sometimes having that fresh start gives you the opportunity to say, actually, well, forget about what has been, what we have, the way we have done things, what we were doing. Think about what do we need to achieve and how are we going to do that. And just a fresh start, a fresh approach can make the world of difference with it. At the same time, it has to be said, though, that there is an advantage that established businesses have in that it's weathered storms. It's gone, they've gone through recessions and interest rate hikes, interest rate lows. So they've seen everything. And the advantage you get with that is that it becomes more resilient, but also it can forecast and plan better for the challenging times. And so what I feel ProsperFi has now is we've got the best of both worlds. So we're not, being a new brand, a new entity, a completely new firm, we're not stuck in the dark ages, as it were.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're not just a new firm that's just popped its head out from nowhere. We've got that establishment, we've got the values and everything there, and the experience to go with it.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So let's say over the last year then, how have you gone about, I'd love to know about your marketing side of your business. I can see you're quite good on things like LinkedIn and there's lots of stuff that you're doing. So great to know how you're marketing the business up until now.
So up until now, the marketing strategy, as you say, it's been LinkedIn, just getting to know as many people as I can. So going to events, getting to meet new people, but getting to meet new people consistently and more than just once. So just being a known expert out there. LinkedIn's been very powerful. What I do feel is that in 2025, I want to increase that marketing. So my plans are to be more active on LinkedIn, grow the following so there's more of an audience, and attend more events and get to know more people, really take a real sort of, I say aggressive, but not in a bad way aggressive, as in a proactive and active approach into the marketing and to accelerate it.
Perfect. And what events did you attend, just out of interest?
So I was part of the NatWest Accelerator program a couple of years ago.
Right.
So the Business Accelerator program. So they hold on events for small businesses. So that's quite useful because it gives you exposure to quite a number of small business owners, all in a similar situation. It gives you the opportunity to learn from them, to understand what their challenges are, where their struggles are, what they're looking for from their accountant. Whereas if you were to just go to the accountant-focused events, whilst they're very good for knowing how to keep your firm up to date, and there are definitely huge advantages to them, I won't deny that, but you gravitate to networking with other accountants who are not going to give you any business.
Yeah. Do you go to any out of interest? Do you go to any accounting specific ones as well?
Yeah, I go to quite a few of them. So I attend the Countech Digital Accountancy Show, Fab in Birmingham. So you could maybe say I go to all the major ones.
Yep. So you mentioned before, about LinkedIn and being more aggressive. So what exactly do you plan on doing? Is it releasing more things like videos? Is it just posting more frequently, commenting more? What's the do you have a strategy behind that as of yet?
Yes, the strategy is to be firstly to be more present, so to post more and to be more active, comment and engage more, but also to do a thought out process with a strategy rather than just random. So doing a mix between value add posts, promotional posts and personal posts so people can get to know me as well.
Yeah. I always find when I'm speaking to people, there's always a mix. Some people are very heavy on the education side, posting wise, and then other people are very, very heavy on the personal side. And it is finding that balance, I guess, between, because people want to know that you're an expert in what you do, but they also want to know you as a person, right? Rather than just a faceless organization. So, I think that's a really good shout, having that mix there with what you're doing. So next thing I want to talk to you about is how you're innovating your practice digitally with technology, that sort of stuff. So the first question I have is probably the hot topic at the moment. It's around AI. So are you using any sort of AI within the practice, anything to help the business grow?
So I'm a bit cautious on the AI side. Because if you're going to put out a report that somebody's going to rely on and it's been AI generated, you need to make sure that is absolutely spot on. What I find that AI is good for is it helps you brush things up. So if you add a report, if you've got the existing data, you could use AI to make it more presentable, make it easier for somebody without the technical knowledge to understand. And that the AI would be very good for. Obviously, you need to check and review it like it's a junior member of staff's work, because you can't rely on it just to go out the door. It's good to help with content writing. Again, you don't want to just go on to AI and just say, write me a post, because then it's not you. It's more about you come up with the ideas and you let the AI formulate it and break it down into something that's easy for people to digest and read and understand. I have got a close eye on the AI though. I do think that as the AI becomes more learned, so to speak, that it will be able to be used more in the future. But right now, I think it's too early days to properly implement it reliably.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it as well at one point. You said that treat it as a junior member of staff. I think that's where the value is at the moment. I'm sure it's going to come a long way in the next few years, and there's going to be all sorts of different ways to implement it within a practice. I'm sure there's quite a lot of stuff coming onto the market now, but certainly on the content side, if you treat it like a junior member of staff and say, look, go and do this for me, and then you're checking over it, that's really how it should be used. I think at this point, I use it as well in terms of help me structure this outreach, or help me structure this post. And then obviously go in and change it and make it more me, right? So I think I completely agree with that. The next question I have is around automation. If there's any sort of automation that you have within your practice. I've spoken to people before, and they're automating things like aspects of customer service or aspects of their processes. Is there anything that you're doing within your practice?
There's the obvious automation tools that we use where, like moving, the invoices over through into the AP system to come into Xero. So actually recently just taken on Apron's capture feature because I think it's quite good. Quite pleased with it. The challenge is that it depends on how you want to position your firm with the automation, because you get firms that are very human focused and you get firms that are very tech focused. And generally speaking, the pull is stronger on one side and not the other. So the human focused firms can be quite back in, not really up with the tech, and the tech focused firms can try and be a bit more of a self-serve model and not give the human input. So the way I like to approach it, and I'm not the only one doing this, there are other firms out there who are doing this as well, is I like to combine the human input together with the tech. So we take advantage of the tech, let it do as much as it can for us to reduce the workload, not that we can just sit on the beach with our feet up, but that we can then take that time saved and reinvest it back into the client and give them actually what they need. Because for me to do something manually, spending hours on it when the system can do it in 5 minutes, there's no benefit to the client of me spending extra time on it. But if I can then spend that time saved going through the numbers with the client, explaining, having conversations with them, then there's real value for them. So the danger with automation sometimes is that there's often no one box that fits all, as it is. One size fits all. So automation generally takes that approach of one size fits all, or it might have a small, medium, and large. It might be a little bit of variety. But so my approach is use automation with care. So you don't just blindly accept what it does. Have checks and balance processes to make sure that if there's automation, that the automation has done what it's supposed to do. And that's more my approach to the automation. I wouldn't say I don't use automation at all.
Okay,
but just approach it with care. That'll be how I say I'd do it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And is there any other way that you're sort of innovating within the practice? Is anything that you're doing that you think is different to other people, or is it a mixture of a combination of things that you're doing that kind of allows your sort of USP in the market? Is there anything that you can think, with this is what we're doing that's really good, that's innovative, or is it standard stuff?
I'd say the human led with tech approach. I'd say so that we've got the tech offering, so that we can offer the suite of services that the tech allows us to do. We can give the client that client experience that tech can provide. But at the same time, we're not doing that sort of self-serve approach where you have some people who take on the tech, and that you want to, if a client calls in, they want to get, say, an SA302 for a mortgage, and the approach is, just go and look in your portal and pick it up over there. And my approach is not that. It's I want to be involved in the conversations with the client. So I want it to be that I know that they're applying for a mortgage because we've already had these conversations. So when they come to me asking for the SA302, it's actually not the first stage conversation. It's actually a much later conversation to conversations we've already had. So that way we know that we make sure that the business is performing to get them the mortgage they need. Do they need to increase their sales revenue? Do they need to increase their profitability? What they need to do to get this mortgage in their business and plan in advance. And also the advantages of, for us to get the SA302, maybe it might be a 5-minute job, but it just gives us that opportunity to keep in the loop, to know where they're up to. Whereas if they're just going off and pulling out the SA302 online, then we don't know that they're going through this process, so we can't help and advise them through the process.
No, I completely agree, and I've spoken to other practice owners that are moving towards this, and I think they were going to see a lot more of this with the advancements in technology. I think it makes so much sense that if we're saving time over here by using technology, if we can push that towards providing a better level of service to the customer, I think that's only going to be a win-win. And I think that's how it's going to allow things like less churn, less people leaving. I think there's going to be more happy customers. I think naturally, if there's anyone listening to this and they're thinking, how can I improve my practice with technology? That should be your number one goal, is how can I use technology to save time over here so I can spend more time over here, right? Rather than just how can I use technology so I can go and sit on a beach? Because I think as all your competitors are using technology to provide a better service, if you just think, I'm just going to save time, I think you're going to still have the same problems, or maybe even more problems with churn as other people improve their service. Would you agree with that?
100%. I'd say, given that the roots of ProsperFi go way back beyond 2024, it goes back 1980. The general principles of accounting, of what an accountant does, hasn't changed. An accountant is there to provide, to have a relationship with their clients and to provide a service in helping them manage and grow their businesses, keeping up with their taxes, etc. That is the accountant's role. Nothing has changed since 1980. Nothing has changed since 1890. The only thing that's changed is the method we do it, which is why I say, it's the importance of being output focused. Because if you're input focused, then you get too drawn in to the individual bits that need to make this output.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think you're definitely doing the right things. I think by doing what you're doing, I think it's only going to allow you to grow in the right direction. In terms of the business then, one question I have is around, if you could fix anything within your practice with technology that currently doesn't exist, what would that be?
Good question.
It's a very, very tough question. So if you don't have an answer, that's absolutely fine. But I thought I'd ask it anyway.
No. It's a very good question. I always like being challenged. I'd say have different systems talking to each other more. It's always, I know we've got Zapier, we've got different tools, but there always just seems to be that duplication of inputting data unnecessarily. And if they could be, if I can press one button, it would do it. Or if it became I don't like red tape, because I think that destroys business. But if there could be something in place that would make it mandatory for every single software provider to have open APIs, and to be able to integrate with each other, that would be amazing. It might be a nightmare for the developers, because you'll have other people messing about with your stuff and crashing your systems. So again, it might not be so practical, but integration, that would be that would be the best, because there's nothing that's best for everything. What you need to do is you need to use best of breed. So you need to have a variety of software options. Yeah,
I think if by some miracle a billionaire is listening to this podcast right now, I think if you can buy up all the top softwares and integrate them all with each other, I think you might be on to a winner there for Izzy.
Maybe. And then my accountant brain comes back in and says, well, that's too much of a risk, because you've got one person owning everything.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So.
It's a really good point. I think as things progress, I reckon there'll be a lot more where people are right. How do we solve all these issues in one system? I think that's naturally going to happen. But I think it'll take a bit of time. I have one last question, and again, it's a tough one, and it's more of a prediction one. So over the next sort of 5 years in your industry, what do you reckon is going to be the biggest change?
So I'd say I'd bring back this AI conversation. I think AI is going to be something that really changes things. We all know the elephant in the room, MTD. I don't really see the hype as much as the software vendors are trying to make it, the MTD, because if you think about, go back to 2019 when MTD for VAT came about, that was quite a bit of a hype. But has anything really changed fundamentally in the way we do VAT returns? It's just, for the people who are doing manual VAT returns on pen and paper, yes, that has changed. But for those that are on the curve of tech, all it's done is it's just made what we're doing already mandatory. So you have to use a system, or at the very least, an Excel spreadsheet that you can do a bridging software. And it'll be I think the MTD for ITSA will be similar sort of scenario. So for the sole traders that are going around with a little notebook, yes, they will suffer. But for somebody who's already using a system, I don't see that affecting them that much, other than maybe having to do some more frequent reporting. But the data's already there, the system's already there, assuming they've got it. The AI, I think, will be the driver that the likes of Zero or any other, we don't know what the software might just emerge from nowhere, the same way that Zero did 15 years ago. That fundamental point of the AI being involved in the bookkeeping and the accounts preparation, I think that might change things quite drastically.
Yeah,
over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think as long as practice owners are willing to adapt and grow with it, I think you'll be fine. I think the people that will suffer is if they sort of fight against it whilst everyone else is adopting it. So if you go with it and, like we discussed before, use it to improve other areas like your customer service, I think it's a win-win. The people that just ignore it, I think you're gonna fall behind the line a little bit. So yeah. I agree. I think that's definitely where things look to be going.
I'll say also is on, in the same way as I said a few minutes ago, that accounting hasn't changed since 1980 in terms of what an accountant is there to do. Right, the fundamental principles are the same. The way we do it has changed. But I say the same when it comes to the approach people have. So if I was to tell you now about somebody who's stuck with their paper files and doesn't want to give up the fact of printing off everything, having a paper backup, you'd think they're outdated. But I see that same trend happening now with tech, where people get emotionally connected to a software and they don't want to change from it. So and it's natural, because as accountants, it kind of forces you into that consistency, reliability model where you just want to have something that's going to work for the rest of your life. But you have to be in the future, in my opinion, you have to be willing to break away from that. And you have to be emotionally unattached to any tool that you use. And it's purely just a tool. And the second that tool is no longer doing what it or the best out there in the market for you, then you go straight to the next.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think being willing to change and adapt is going to be key. Yeah, I completely agree. So Izzy, if people need to get in touch with you or want to follow you, how would they go about doing that?
So the best is just to search me on LinkedIn, connect with me. If you want, send me a DM. I always do my best to respond to DMs, as long as it's not coming along and trying to sell me something in the first message.
Yeah.
To quote what James Ashford said once about these DMs, he said, you have a relationship. When you put a relationship, you have to invest into a relationship before you make a withdrawal. And if the first message you put on a LinkedIn message is a withdrawal, you're not starting a relationship off, because you can't go overdrawn in a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to have credit there. So it's pretty easy to find me on LinkedIn. Izzy Rosenberg. One quirk about my name is my first name. So anyway, no matter which way you spell it or turn it around, it always comes back to saying Izzy.
Yeah,
it's in capital letters. If it's backwards, upside down, whichever way it is, it always comes back to the same thing.
Yeah, that's I didn't even consider that, but yes, so Izzy Rosenberg on LinkedIn. Anything else, like your website address, or would you rather them come to you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn's the best way to reach out. I do have a website. Obviously, it will need further development as we go on. It's ProsperFi with an i.co.uk. And but that link to that website is on my LinkedIn profile.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Izzy. I'll wrap it up now. But yeah, it's been great speaking to you. And yeah, go and follow
Thanks,
Izzy.
Ollie. Thank you.
Mate. Cheers.